Hello everyone, thanks for coming over to the channel. On this day we decided to go over to Elk Island National Park to see what kind of wildlife we could find. Our intention was to take the Hayburger Trail, but as you'll see later on, we had to change our plans. You can try demonstration of the buffalo rolling. Way beyond?
Yeah, where there's just there.
So what we were seeing was this guy, which with the binoculars we found out was a bald eagle. Unfortunately, he was so far away that this was the best video we could capture. At this point, we decided to check out the map of the trail. So we're here, we're gonna walk up here, and then probably take the counterclockwise route around and then back. Say 3 to 4 hours, 11.6 kilometers. As you can see though, the trail was full of ice and all we had was our hiking poles and no cleats. At this point, we were discussing whether to continue with the trail. The path was getting worse for ice, and we had a hilled area that was going to be difficult to manage. We decided to quit this trail and go back and try a small portion of the Astoten Lake Shoreline Trail. But we were a bit disappointed because we had really not filmed anything at this time. So more for fun than anything, I decided to put the GoPro underwater and see what was there. And for my fun, I found nothing really but some murky water and interesting chemistry. At another time of year there could be some minnows, but not today. Back to the trailhead to get the car and head over to Astoten Lake. However, on the way over there, we were pleasantly surprised to find these two male bison grazing. The open areas had lost much of their snow, and they were taking full advantage of the grassy area. I have to say that I was starting to feel very fortunate for the amount of wildlife that I was seeing at Elk Island over this winter. For me, nothing represents the North American prairies like the bison. They are so iconic to me. I never get tired of watching them. They still have a lot of their winter fur, but you can still see some molting has started, and this gets them ready for summer. They were not aggressive at all, but they were starting to get pretty close to us, so we decided it was time to get over to the trailhead. For the Astoten Lake Shoreline Trail, we went as far as this marsh. The Canada geese were migrating at this time, and we hoped that we might be able to see some. And as you'll see, there were a few couples here. The groups of geese that you'll be seeing here are more than likely going to stay in the area, nest, and raise young for the spring and summer. You will notice that the couples are fighting for this territory, which will include the portion of the marsh that you will see in this video. The beaver lodge that you're seeing here is mostly what they're fighting for. The beaver lodge is a prime location as it's in the middle of the water, and the nest and eggs, including the young, will be safe from foxes, coyotes, and any other land predators. So because of this, it's a very prime spot, and that's why you see so many couples here fighting for the territory. The breeding season can occur anywhere from March to April for Canada geese, but this largely depends on when spring gets established and the warm air comes in. They normally lay 5 to 6 eggs, which can take place sometime between April and May, but again, this depends on how quickly spring gets established. All in all, for the day we were there, it was very difficult to determine whose territory this was going to become. Hope you enjoyed this early spring video. Thanks for coming by.